What is up, everybody? If you have oil leaks on your valve covers or on your twin Ultramatic oil pan, it is quite likely that they're tightened too tight. A lot of times those will start leaking just from the gaskets getting old or whatever, or it's leaking from someplace else and people are like, oh, let me tighten this down, make sure it's good. And that actually causes it to leak. So here's what we do to fix that and make sure it doesn't happen. First of all, correct torque specs. And you should, especially on the twin Ultramatic or regular Ultramatic oil pan, use a click type or a digital torque wrench, one that beeps at you when you get to the right torque spec. Don't use like a dial indicator or like a scale indicator one, because those you have to look and see where it's at. The click type, it'll be very repeatable every single time, and you'll have the exact same torque on each one. That's my recommendation. In terms of the actual spec, it's 11 foot-pounds for the Ultramatic oil pans. Engine oil pan is 15. These, probably like 11, is the way to go. These are supposed to be 15, but I think you need to do 11. Because if it's 15, it'll distort these. So then this is what you're gonna see. You'll notice, let me make it super obvious here. Whoops. You'll notice that that is sticking up. I'm not sure which viewpoint it's most obvious, but you can see that there's a shadow under there, even though this is resting directly on that. So, it doesn't show up super well on camera, but that's because the gasket, from tightening the screws too much, the gasket got really pinched here. And you can see there's this kind of gentle, okay, focus please. This gentle bow that kind of goes along here. So there's very little pressure on this middle part here because these are tightened down so much, it makes the thing bow out. Same thing on the Ultramatic oil pans. And the valve covers and Ultramatic oil pans are particularly important to get this right because in the Ultramatic oil pan, the oil level actually goes above the top of the oil pan when the car is at rest. Of course, that's basically all the time. So if the gasket leaks, it's just gonna keep leaking and leaking and leaking. So it has to be done right. The valve covers are less important in a way because obviously there's only oil coming through here when the engine's running. The problem is so the valve cover is mounted on the engine like this. So statistically, of course, oil is going to flow downhill. So it's going to mostly end up around here. And this here is right above one of your exhaust manifolds. And this is the largest unsupported section aside from this. But again, this is at the top, so oil's not really going to seep out of there. If you have a leak, it'll come out of here and fall right on your exhaust, and you'll wonder why your engine is so smoky. Well, it's because there's oil getting just slowly running down and continually feeding a little smoke screen, right on your exhaust. So how do we fix this? It's very easy. So first of all, and as you can see here, I have this vise only tight enough to properly support this. And really it's only supporting it on this side, so I'll have to flip it around. I can make it a little tighter here. There we go. You want to make sure it's resting with a bit of wiggle room in the vise so this can seat completely flat. And what we do is we just take a nice ball peen hammer, and you can use whatever side is better, but carefully hold this in place, and we're just going to smack that right there. I don't know if I can do it with the camera. Well, it'll be loud anyway, but all you do, again, just smack that down, and I'll cut back in just a second. There we go, that's quite satisfactory. So we can see that is completely flat. If we run over to this other one here, we can see that we have the shadow. I'll show you again, get the shadow. It's completely flat there. So all I'm gonna do is run around to all my other ones and make them flat. A useful hammering technique is not necessarily to try and hammer flat, that's fine for the first couple of hits, but to really get it cinched down, you want to have, I'm exaggerating here, but you want to have the hammer at a slight angle and kind of tap it down like that. The actual angle I use is just very subtle like this here. And of course I have to hit it harder. I'm just hitting it gently so it doesn't sound too loud on camera. But especially like on these corners here, if you have the hammer sets flat, have it tipped up slightly, that'll allow you to get the one next to the flange without trying to kill the flange and without having to have super perfect kind of accuracy in getting the hammer to hit flat. Especially for the ones on the opposing side, it's helpful to use the corner of your vise there to get tucked into the pocket and get a very nice result. So we can turn this over here. Of course, it's quite rusty and things. I kept it that way on purpose. I just like the patinaed look, but here we go. And in case anybody's wondering, or for some reason doubts that this is how they came from the factory, I sold them at Hershey last year. I did have a pair of in-the-box, brand new chrome valve covers that were 100% just dead flat. There was nothing in this area of the die at all to make that anything other than flat. All you have is this depression and this flange. That is it. So this is 100% the way it's supposed to be. Torque it down properly. With these, you can probably go by feel, but better to use a torque wrench. And of course, once you torque it down, you can always, if it's leaking on you a little bit at 11, you can go up to like 12 or 13. But if you use some fresh lock washers, even at that lower torque, it shouldn't, the bolt shouldn't back out. That's why we use the lock washers on these. And then, the last thing is you have to 100% use a new gasket. The old one just ain't gonna work. Don't try it, don't bother, whatever. Clean off if there's excess shellac on here. This one came off pretty cleanly, but sometimes you'll have like a layer. So I'm gonna scrape this off, even that, but clean up obviously your gasket surface. Use Permatex shellac compound, formerly called Permatex Indian Head compound, between the sheet metal and the gasket. That's the rule, because the machined surfaces like the block, the transmission case, those are very flat. The valve covers in the stamped surfaces, oil pan, not necessarily flat. So we always run with the shellac between that, between the sheet metal and the gasket. Also, when you drop that removable piece, the gasket will come with it. You don't have to go, especially like the transmission or engine pan or something, you don't have to be under the car scraping the gasket off or the shellac off or something. You want to be able to do that on the bench. That's why we always, there's those two important reasons that we always do the shellac between the gasket and the stamped metal. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much it, but this is a very important subject, so I did want to make a video when I had this opportunity to here. So if you enjoyed it, please leave a like, subscribe for more videos like this. Any questions or comments, put them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.